The quiet years after 60 are rarely spoken about honestly. Everyone prepares you for retirement parties and pension plans, for grandchildren and slower mornings, but almost no one prepares you for the strange, hollow feeling that can creep in once the noise settles. The feeling of waking up and asking, quietly, who am I now that no one needs me the way they used to? For decades, identity was easy. You were the provider, the manager, the fixer, the one people called when something broke, a decision, a crisis, a Tuesday. Your days had shape because your role gave them shape. You knew where you belonged because the world kept handing you a name: parent, employee, leader, protector. And then, slowly, without any single dramatic moment, the roles begin to loosen. Children build their own lives. Colleagues stop calling. The title on your door disappears. The house grows quieter, not because anything tragic happened, but because life simply moved forward without needing you to hold it up anymore. This is where the quiet crisis begins, not with a collapse, but with a fading. A sense that the mirror still shows the same face, but the reflection no longer matches how the world responds to you. People still love you, but they need you less. People still respect you, but they don't ask your opinion the way they once did. And in that space between being needed and simply being, something inside starts to ask a question you were too busy to ask for 40 years. What was I, underneath all those roles? It is tempting to call this sadness, but it is something more precise than sadness. It is disorientation. When identity has been built almost entirely on function, on what you do for others, on what you produce, on what people expect from you, then the loss of function feels like the loss of self. But it isn't. It only feels that way because no one ever taught you the difference between what you do and who you are. Think about it for a moment. A river doesn't stop being a river when it stops carrying boats. Its identity was never in the cargo, it was in the movement, the depth, the quiet persistence of flowing towards something larger than itself. Most people, though, spend their most active years believing they are the cargo. They believe they are the job title, the responsibility, the role others depend on. So when the cargo is unloaded, they panic, thinking the river itself has disappeared. But here is the truth that becomes available to you at this stage of life. If you are willing to sit with it instead of running from it, this quiet unraveling is not the end of your identity. It is an invitation to finally meet it. Every stage of life until now has been about becoming something, becoming educated, becoming employed, becoming a partner, becoming a parent, becoming successful in whatever way your world measured success. But nobody warns you that becoming has an expiration date, and that after it ends, a new and much harder task begins: simply being. Being present without needing to prove anything. Being valuable without needing to be useful. Being whole without needing anyone's approval to confirm it. This is not a small shift. It is, in many ways, the final exam of a human life, the one no school prepares you for, the one no career trains you to pass. And like any real exam, it cannot be answered by looking outward. It can only be answered by turning quietly inward and asking honest questions. What do I actually enjoy, separate from what impressed people? What do I believe, separate from what my job required me to project? What brings me peace, not performance? Many people in their 60s and beyond discover, almost with surprise, that they never really knew the answers to these questions, because they never had time to ask them. The years were too full of responsibility to leave room for reflection. And now, in the quieter chapters, life is finally offering the space that was missing all along. The tragedy is not that the space appeared. The tragedy is mistaking that space for emptiness, instead of recognizing it as room to finally grow into yourself. This is the moment to understand something that most people only discover too late: meaning was never something the world gave you through titles and responsibilities. Meaning is something you generate from the inside, and it can exist in the smallest, quietest of things, a conversation with an old friend, a walk taken slowly enough to notice the light, a skill picked up simply because it brings joy, not because it builds a resume. The mind, so trained to chase productivity, often resists this at first. It searches for a new role to replace the old one, a new identity to fill the space, as if peace could only exist through busyness. But peace does not ask you to be busy. Peace asks you to be honest. And honesty, at this stage of life, often reveals something unexpected, that you were never only the roles you played. You were the awareness underneath them the entire time. The parent who worried, the worker who pushed forward, the protector who stayed strong, all of these were expressions of something deeper, something that watched, learned, endured, and grew through every version of you. That awareness never retired. It never lost its job. It is still here, still capable of wonder, still capable of connection, still capable of shaping a life that feels whole rather than simply occupied. Building a meaningful life after the roles fade is not about finding new ways to stay relevant to others. It is about becoming relevant to yourself again, maybe for the first time in decades. It means allowing curiosity back into your days, without guilt. It means valuing rest not as laziness but as a return to a rhythm you were forced to abandon. It means choosing relationships based on presence rather than utility, spending time with people not because you must, but because you want to. It means understanding that your worth was never measured by how needed you were, but by how truthfully you lived. There is a quiet dignity available in this stage of life that younger years simply cannot offer. The pressure to prove yourself fades. The need to compete fades. What remains, if you allow it, is clarity, the ability to see your life not through the roles you performed, but through the values you carried inside them. Kindness. Patience. Integrity. Curiosity. These do not retire. These do not fade with age. If anything, they deepen, becoming less about impressing the world and more about aligning with yourself. So if you find yourself in this chapter, standing quietly in a life that feels less defined than it used to, do not rush to fill the silence with noise. Sit with it. Let it ask its questions. Let it strip away the identities that were borrowed from expectation, and slowly reveal the one identity that was always yours, the awareness that has been walking beside every version of you your entire life. This is not decline. This is arrival. And in this arrival, you do not need to be needed to matter. You do not need a title to be whole. You simply need to remember that the river was never the cargo, it was the river all along. If this reflection meant something to you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you'd like more thoughts like this, feel free to subscribe, and let me know in the comments what this chapter of life looks like for you.